I got it for you.
I'll tell you what, I'm going Friday, and it's on Saturday as well, and then
that's something I would like to do. We got a bunch of folks that visit our neighborhood. We've got pictures of them showing. And her brother lives in South Carolina. Different person. That might be something that I'd be interested in.
All right, we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. Please mark those members present with the exception of Mr. Armbruster, okay?
Yes, sir. Got a lot going on today.
All right, you have the minutes before you of the December 17th meeting. A motion's in order for those minutes.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to accept it.
Motion been made, and a second?
Second.
All right. Any corrections or additions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Stewart, would you make your first request of the evening, please?
Yes, sir. I have an application from a Mr. Mark Teramy, who is the property owner at 3439 Southway Ridge. He's requesting dimensional variance from the requirements of the permitted obstructions and the minimum required yards regulations. He is wishing to install an air conditioning unit closer to the side property line than what's permitted. The site is located on Southway Ridge in the enclave at South Ridge subdivision and currently has a detached single-family residence, which actually just finished being built. All of the adjoining properties currently have detached single-family residence, with the lot to the northwest being currently vacant. The subject property and most of the properties around that are in the R1E zone, and the properties to the northeast are in the R1F zone. The R1E zone allows single-family residential dwellings, detached and qualified manufactured homes. As per Direction 2030, which is the countywide comprehensive plan, which was adopted on September 4th, 2014, identifies all the surrounding properties as well as a reference site for residential uses with a density of 4.1 to 7.0 dwelling units per net acre. The applicant is proposing to install an air conditioning unit 4 feet from the right side property line. Section 9.10F4 states that air conditioning units shall not be considered to be obstruction when located in the minimum required side yards, provided they are set back a minimum distance of 10 feet from any side lot line. The house was drawn and permitted to be constructed 8 feet from the right side property line. Air conditioning units typically extend out from the house wall about 4 feet. The applicant is also proposing to install a backup generator in the future on the same side of the house, but towards the rear of the house. The generator should not extend out from the house any further than the air conditioning unit. The applicant is requesting a setback variance of 4 feet.
Okay. Those of you that are either going to speak for or against this, please stand and raise your right hand. Okay, you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, I assume that you are the one making the request? You want to step to the podium, please, and state your reason for your request. State your name first, please.
Name is Mark Teramy. And the reason for the request is the air conditioner, as they have said it, is in the back of the house, and it produces a problem with the finished part of the house when we decide to finish out the basement, sitting right behind the window. So we wanted to move it over to the side where it looked like it would be more accommodating for us and for the neighborhood. There's also the fellow that lives right next door to us. His air conditioning and his generator are on the same side as what ours is, or what ours is proposed to be. So that basically that was the whole extent of it. It would impact being able to finish the basement in the way that we wouldn't want to.
All right, now,
Go ahead.
okay, I'm sorry, will you finish?
I was going to say if I can't move the air conditioner, I have no way of putting the generator in, because the generator has to have so many feet away from the windows. So the only place that I actually have a place to put it would be on the right side of the building. The left side of the house is even a shorter distance from the property line than the right side.
All right, couple questions. Now, you're talking about installing this on the right side of your house, as you face it from the street looking,
As I'm looking from the street, straight at the house, on the right-hand side.
right-hand side. Your next neighbor over,
Yes.
what is the closest to the property line there? Bedroom, garage, or what?
It would be the garage.
He has a garage coming back that is along the property line where is there any living quarters behind that garage?
There is, he had a garage that was added, his property line afforded a bigger area for a garage, so he was able to get that carriage garage on, and then his air conditioning and his generator tucked behind that. Living space. I've been in his house once or twice. I know that there's, on the other side, there's living space. I think a kitchen, if I'm not mistaken. There's no windows on that side of the house.
But there is a living quarters behind his garage.
Behind his garage, there is, yes, there's living quarters.
All right. Now, when you say that you're looking for a future generator,
Yes.
what are we, you're saying a year from now, 2 years from now, or 10 years from now?
Oh, it'll probably happen immediately. As soon, if I get the approval, we'll move the air conditioner over to the side and we'll order up the generator to put in next to it.
So your neighbor's generator and air conditioning unit are on the same side?
Yes. Yes, they're on the same
They're
side.
facing your house?
Yes, yeah. I've never heard his generator kick on. He says it turns on every morning or every night at 2 o'clock in the morning. I've never heard it. It's been too cold to have air conditioning running, but, of course, I haven't heard that either. They're brick homes. You don't have the, it's not like where everything's sided and noise travels through.
Your portion of the house, is that living quarters, or you have a garage there also?
No, ours is kitchen side. Our garage would be on the opposite side of the house.
So the variance that you're asking for is 10 feet.
4 feet.
4 feet, but I mean, well, let me go back and clarify that. The initial says there has to be 10 feet.
Correct.
He's saying that
Be
there is
6.
only 8 feet
It's 8 feet to the house, to the property line.
to the property
So
line.
he's asking for 6
4
foot.
feet projection from the air conditioner out to the edge of the air conditioner.
So it'll be 6 feet of variance.
So in other words, we're talking a total of 6 feet,
Yes, sir. But
4 feet.
it's 4 feet from the house.
So in other words, it's a total of what, 8 feet?
8 feet from the house wall to the property line.
That's correct. Line 4 for the air conditioner, that leaves then 4 feet
Yes, sir.
to the property line. And in that area there, am I correct on that? I think I'm right on what I'm saying, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And then you're saying that in addition to that, you want to put a slab toward the back on the same side or in the same area, within the same area,
Yes.
to accommodate a generator, is that correct?
Yes.
And would that be sitting on the same slab as what the the air conditioner be sitting on?
I believe that we're going to put the air conditioner on the, with the struts or whatever that stick out from the foundation. The generator will be poured there. We're going to kind of mimic what he did next door, and he had a pad that was made that comes with the Generac generators. It's just cleaner looking, and yes, if you put a concrete slab, it's not what we were looking for.
Mr. Stewart, if this was, or subject to approval, and was approved, they would have to get a permit in order to install any given generator, correct?
Yes, sir.
In other words, within the guidelines of what would fit in a residential area. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in other words, it would still have to be approved by the city for, a permit would have to be approved by the city in order
Correct.
for it to go in there.
Yes.
That's all the question I have. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody else in the audience that wishes to comment one way or the other on this? If not, thank you. We'll close that part of it, and we'll go ahead with our end of it.
All right,
okay?
thank you.
Thank you. All right, any discussion from the panel? I think that if we should vote to approve this, that would like to see that it would be, a permit would be, have to be issued within 1 year. Otherwise, you know, it would be null and void. That's just my thought. Okay, any other comments or questions? If not, then a motion's in order.
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to grant Mr. Mark Taremi to install the air conditioning unit 4 feet from the right side of the property line. His granting of this variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the general or essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard and a nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of this zoning regulation. The motion shall be pursuant and a factual determination from the evidence provided, including without limitation to our staff report, which hereby is determined to be accurate.
Should we include the generator in that motion also? I did not hear it mentioned.
If you wish.
Can I ask if the generator now, does that fall under the same regulations as the air conditioner would with the side lot regulation?
We have nothing that specifically says generator. However, I personally, if I were interpreted, I would interpret it to be the same as the air conditioner. That's how I would enforce it as a zoning administrator.
Well, in that motion, then I would like to include as well, having the slab for the generator put on the same side with that. He shows it being a few feet apart, and I think that would be adequate.
Then you got in there, if it passes within, permit within 1 year.
Okay, and it's also the project should be done within 1 year.
All right, you've heard the motion, covering both the generator and the air conditioner. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second that motion.
All right, second by Mr. Molly. In discussion, roll call vote, Mr. Stewart.
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Molly,
Yes.
Mr. Newsom.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Stewart, you have another request for the evening.
Yes, sir. We have an application from Ms. Susan Douglas, the CEO of Girl Scouts of Kentucky's Wilderness Road, who are the property owners of 607 Watson Road, and they are applying for a conditional use permit to construct multiple structures, activity areas, expand the parking areas, widen the existing driveway, install 2 new signs, a new interior access road, and a walking trail. The site is located on Watson Road, where Watson Road ends at I-71, I-75, and currently has a shelter and a lake. I had issued a permit to demolish the other buildings, but I noticed this evening that they're still up. But the 2 current large buildings will be taken down in order to construct the 2 large buildings proposed. The properties to the north and northeast have single-family residences. The properties to the east and south have apartment buildings, and the properties to the southwest are the Erlanger Lions Club property, and I-71, I-75 borders the west property line. The subject property and the single-family residences are within the residential 1G zone. The apartments are in the residential R3 zone. I-71, I-75 right-of-way is within the Industrial Park 3 zone, and the Lions Club property is both in the R1G and R3 zones. The R1G zone permits single-family residential dwellings, detached housing for the elderly, and qualified manufactured homes. The zone also conditionally permits a variety of uses, including recreational uses other than those publicly owned and or operated, as follows: golf courses, country clubs, swimming pools, and campground. Per the Direction 2030, which is the county comprehensive plan adopted on September 4th, 2014, the recommended land use plan identifies the reference site, the single-family residence properties, and Erlanger Lions Club property as residential uses with a density of 4.1 to 7.0 dwelling units per net acre. The apartment properties are identified as residential uses with a density of 14.1 to 30.0 dwelling units per net acre. And I-71, I-75 is identified as a right-of-way. On November 18th, 1985, the Erlanger Board of Adjustments heard an appeal of the zoning minister's decision that the proposed use as offices, training space, and occasional supervised campouts for the Girl Scout organization did not fall under the permitted uses as a recreational use. That was, the zoning administrator had ruled it did not fall. The board voted to uphold the appeal, saying they did meet that definition. The applicant is proposing to construct multiple structures on the property: an administration building, approximately 7,500 square feet, a program center, which is approximately 5,400 square feet, a shelter house of 2,000 square feet, 6 cabins, which are 350 square feet each, a canoe storage building, 1,200 square feet, an amphitheater with a pavilion of 900 square feet, an archery area with a pavilion of 900 square feet, an equipment storage building, which is 200 square feet, a dock on a lake, and a dumpster enclosure. All the structures are proposed to more than meet the minimum front, side, and rear yard setbacks. The applicant is also proposing to widen the existing driveway, increase the marked parking spaces from 19 existing to 46, with an overflow parking area with up to 18 more parking spaces, and construct an access road to the shelter house and cabins, a walking trail around the property, a sports court, and a courtyard between the administration and program center buildings. They're also proposing to install a freestanding sign where the driveway meets Watson Road and a wall sign on the administration building facing I-71, I-75. Section 14.8E1 states the freestanding sign shall be a maximum of 40 square feet. Section 14.8E3 states the wall sign shall be a maximum of 2 square feet for each 1 foot of wall that the sign is being mounted on, up to a maximum of 150 square feet with a maximum letter height of 36 inches. Section 10.7C states that recreational uses and custom accessory buildings shall be subject to approval of the Erlanger Board of Adjustments. The KRS, Kentucky Revised Statutes 100.2373 states that if the main building or other improvement does not have a signed written contracts or is not substantially under construction within 1 year or other time limit set by the board from the board's decision, the conditional use is to be brought back to the board at a public hearing to discuss either extending the time limit, adding conditions, or revoking the permit.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, again, those of you who are either going to speak for or against what has been brought to us tonight, please stand and raise your right hand. Okay, I'm assuming we're only going to have 2 people speaking tonight, is that correct? I ask those that are either going to be speaking for or against, please stand and raise your right hand. All right. Thank you. You all swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. All right, thank you. Now, the person that's making the request, please come to the podium, state your name, and state your reason for the request.
Hello, get the right distance here. My name is Brock McKay. I'm a landscape architect with Vioxx and Vioxx, and I've been working with the Girl Scouts for a couple of years on master planning. We have a group of folks here tonight, the executive team from the Girl Scouts of Kentucky. We also have KZF Design and Furlong Building, all of which have been working on plans to basically redo the facility, the current facility. And I have a few slides that I can run through to kind of give a background of where we are today and what we're proposing for the future. You can go ahead and click. This is an aerial shot, and over on the left side is the property. As Mark had talked about, we fall under R1G. We've had several conversations with the city over the last year and conducted a public meeting here to try to sort out what was the best way to move forward. The Girl Scouts, because of how they operate and the different things that they do, they don't clearly fit into other zones, which is kind of why we're here. We looked at, should we try to change the zone into something, but it didn't really fit anything because it's just kind of an odd land use relative to a lot of typical zoning. So it seemed like the best way to deal with it was to do exactly what they did in 1985, which I'll reference, which is go through the Board of Adjustments and basically propose a master plan for it. Go ahead. This is just a survey of the property, which outlines the existing conditions. You can see kind of in the middle, this is the footprint of the original house. It was a private house on the property, and the way that the Girl Scouts have been operating out of this is basically an adaptive reuse of this old house. And it basically has a regular driveway. The property was donated to them. That's how they ended up being here. And over the years, they've really just done their best to accommodate the girls and the different programming and the different needs. But now is kind of the time where that building is starting to need repairs, and so for a lot of different reasons, it makes a lot of sense to come up with something new and that would better service the girls. Go ahead. This is the driveway, which is basically a one way in, one way out. This is one of the things that we're proposing, main things that we're proposing to improve with the new site plan that we will get to. Go ahead. Here's a shot at the old house. It's starting to get some wear and tear over the years. It's serviced them pretty well, but it just doesn't. It was designed to be a house. We'd like to implement something that really meets the needs of what they're actually doing. Go ahead. The site is pretty close to the interstate, so there is some noise, but with that also comes some good exposure to the interstate, which the Girl Scouts like to be visible, and this site is a good location relative to northern Kentucky to be really accessible for lots of different folks. This is a shot looking back at the house from the backyard. Go ahead. Another building that was inherited on the property, storage type garage area. This is the pond. You can see the interstate in the background. This is kind of looking left of the pond down to the south. A garage that was inherited with the property that they use for storage. This is looking down the hill back towards Watson. And this is looking a little bit further to the east, across the field towards Watson. Go ahead. This is a existing shelter that they have, cookie truck. This is just the floor plan that they've tried to adapt to their needs. As you can see, we're going to come up with something that's just really going to be able to be much more efficient for serving their needs. This is reference to the 1985 BOA. Basically, if we needed to look back in that, but it basically explains kind of what the situation was back then, and basically, you know, this many years later, going through it again. Here is the site plan. So this covers all of the different proposed elements and sizes. Go ahead. Here are some just early kind of conceptual renderings of what the new facility and what the new building might look like. Same thing, we basically have two buildings that would be proposed, connected by a courtyard, and part of the implementation is really going to depend on the capital campaign, which is underway right now. So it's hard to say tonight exactly what we're going to build immediately. They are in demolition, you know, they are planning to move forward with demolition any day. I believe the permit's in. Furlong Building can speak about that as well. Another picture through the courtyard back towards the pond, some of the other amenities in the back, and then just kind of an interior kind of classroom shot. One of the big things that the Girl Scouts do is make an influence in a lot of people's lives. So these are just quotes from a lot of different different folks. It's kind of one of the features that's going to be incorporated into one of the walls of the building. Go ahead. And just finish with it. You know, the Girl Scouts are looking forward to kind of the next step in the community, and really look forward to hopefully being able to implement this as soon as possible. And as I said, we're open for questions. Thanks.
Okay, hold on. All right, now you're looking at it from the architectural standpoint of the layout of what's going on that site, correct? In other words, you all did the layout for the buildings and what was going to be.
Yes.
Basically, you're dealing with three areas here. One is there's about 9 major changes to the property, you know, including amphitheater, minimum, you know, buildings off-site, cabins, canoe storage sheds, and these kind of things. Second is you have designed some parking. And in the parking, you have stated that this was to eliminate Watson Road traffic, parking, you know, this kind of thing. In 1985 and thereafter, when the girls have met, they've been dropped off at the little lane and picked up at the lane without anybody being able to, in other words, there's not even a turnaround on Watson Road down on the other end.
Yes, sir.
Anybody that goes down there has to turn around in somebody else's driveway or be subject to getting into their driveway. Mm-hmm. Now, my question to you is, in the architectural design, that's the one phase is parking. Have you corrected that?
Yes, sir. That was one of the things that we really looked at first, is basically circulation and the drop-off. So we're basically going to take that existing driveway and we're going to grade it down, take it down a little bit and widen it so that you can have 2-lane traffic. Therefore, you won't have any stacking or anything on Watson Road. There'll be in and out lanes of traffic, and then the turnaround and drop-off area will be designed on the interior of the property right by the building.
All right, well, let me make sure we clarify that, what you're saying. You're talking about widening the driveway going up. there is room up there, according to what you've shown on the plan, to be able to turn around and come back. Okay?
Yes.
Is that the intent, or do we need somebody else later to answer that question? To get the traffic off of Watson and not be down on people's driveways and blocking? Or
Yes, that's
that-
correct. That's the intent.
So if the turnaround need to be clear up at the, you know, administration building or wherever,
Turnarounds at the front, the drop-offs at the front door now.
that's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
So we can understand that. You can assume that's correct.
Yes, sir.
And no more drop-off on Stevenson Road if this is approved. In other words, you can't keep somebody from dropping somebody off on Stevenson Road, but under normal conditions, somebody's not gonna be running down there wide open trying to get their kid because they were late. You know what I mean, and that kind of thing. You couldn't assume that to happen. Okay, so with that, and with the provision you have made, with the changes you have made architecturally, how many students are normally accommodated during the day, say a summer camp, right now?
If you're going to start asking about those type of questions, probably bring up the CEO, the Girl Scouts, to talk about numbers in programming.
Well, I mean, that's.
If you have
what we're gonna
engineering
get-
or layout questions.
Ultimately, we're gonna get into that.
Okay.
But, you had 6 cabin sites over in the corner
Yes.
that you designed. Do you feel they're sufficient away from the other buildings of noise factor or anything like that being an issue? Assuming they could be used overnight.
Yes, yes, they can. I mean, I think we have them placed in a way that is, I don't really consider there being loud uses in there, especially nothing that would really be louder than the interstate is already right there. That's kind of one of the challenges of doing the cabins. And we are proposing, there is a protective fence on that side, and we can do the landscape buffering, because we don't really want, we really kind of want to create a little bit of a sense of a green wall there anyway, so that you know, it feels a little bit nicer. It's a little bit more rural, even though it's, you know,
All right.
by an interstate.
Okay, new administration building?
Yes.
Yes or no? 7,500 square feet, is that one of the proposals?
Yes.
New program center, 5,400 square feet. Shelter house, 2,000. 6 cabins. Canoe storage shed. Amphitheater that will be open over to the left. Archery pavilion and equipment storage. And a dock to be put at the upper end of where the pond is. Is all that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then pathways going back and forth through that.
Yes, sir.
And then the signage will be a separate situation, even though it's a part of your overall program.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's my question.
Couple questions regarding the parking. There may be at least a couple times during the course of the year where that parking, I don't know if it's they're issuing cookies or it's an open house, but they're parked all the way up into the school district, which I'm sure the school district approves, no problem there. But that's quite a bit of traffic parked all the way up Watson Road and into the parking lots at the high school across the way. Also, to make mention, and I'm not sure that there's a whole lot you can do about it, but I have gone by there and I've seen signs in the yard, drive as though your children live here. So maybe the turnaround and drop-off point will solve that. You know, I think they're all rushing to get down there and some people are coming in a little bit late. So I'm sure that may be one of the concerns that the residents that live there may have. I'm not sure 46 parking places is going to be enough, even with your overflow up to 64. Because in doing what you're doing, you're also going to be increasing the numbers of people that are there and participating there. I'm sure that's one of the goals.
Mm-hmm.
to do that. So I have a little concern about the parking.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, parking's kind of a tough thing sometimes to figure out what exactly that perfect number is. You know, I talked a little bit about this over the past year. I think that we have the acreage to be able to try to deal with that. And that's one of the reasons we proposed that the auxiliary overflow parking be shown on this plan, to basically say that, hey, we know that you know, we don't want to overbuild parking lots on this site, but we certainly want to have enough parking to deal with the different scenarios, especially if there's maybe two things going on at one time. I believe Susan can probably talk about how they do their programming and things like that, of where we might end up either not having overlaps or having overlaps. But you know, we could you know, that auxiliary parking that's dashed in there could even be larger if we, you know, if we started to see that we were having problems. We could carve out and grade out another level of parking that would be in between Watson Road and the facility. And also, I think that it's a good place for a parking lot because it's kind of tucked up against the interstate, which is kind of loud anyway, and doesn't really take up acreage for some of these other proposed uses and program elements.
You may have shown this on your drawings, or the architect may have shown this. The overflow parking, is that just going to be a grassy area, or is it specifically?
We've seen it we've seen it done that way. I mean, sometimes especially in the summertime, well, you know, if there's going to be you know, a one-time event or some type of instance where it's only going to happen once or twice a year, we'll do that. Sometimes, if it's going to happen more often, though, we'll just build it as a parking lot. One of the photos I think that kind of highlights that area is kind of where the old volleyball court was kind of graded in. That's kind of where we could do a driveway down to there if it was required to start meeting the demands of the parking. And like I said, Susie can talk a little bit about numbers and programming elements, you know, as far as, you know, is there going to be, you know, are they going to be using the classroom at the same time as the amphitheater or not? You know, I think that she'd be good to talk to that a little bit when it's her turn.
How many acres total you got there?
It's on the survey. Let me go back to the survey. You remember what the total acreage is? I can't remember off the top of my head. 11 acres. That's right. 11 acres. Did we fill that out on our application, Mark?
11, survey says 11.216 there on the screen there. Brock.
Great. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are you finished? Or I didn't, anyone else have any questions?
It's up to you guys, I guess.
No.
One question, how much parking is currently on the property now?
That's a good question.
I counted 19 on an aerial photo. I counted 19 on an aerial photo.
Yeah, we're proposing quite a bit more, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, for the time being then, if you will, then go ahead and have a seat. And at this time, rather than hear from you ladies, I'd rather take a person who is on Watson Road or somebody that spoke up and said they wanted to speak. Is there a person here who was going to speak? Would you come up and state your name and state your reason for being here? Then we'll get back to you all.
Brian Listman. I live right next to the property.
Your name again, please? I'm sorry.
Brian Wistman. I live right next to the property.
All right.
So some of the concerns I had was the double driveway. So the way the cars go in and out of there now as a single driveway they think it's a continuous road, it's not a driveway. So they're hitting that, you know, entrance to the driveway 10, 15, 20 miles an hour. I can't tell you how many times I've almost been sideswiped going in and out of my driveway. One of the last meeting we had here like a month and a half ago, I stated the same concerns. A week later, somebody that was in the building here pulled out in front of me while I was trying to turn in my driveway. So they're coming out of a driveway, I'm on the street trying to turn in my driveway, and they pull right in front of me, just the way it is. I think they should have more of a 90-degree angle for their driveway, like all the other driveways up and down the road, so it's not so fast going in and out. I think with the double wide driveway, it's just gonna allow people to go in and out of there faster without even looking. I mean, when they come out of the property, even though it is a dead end, most people coming out won't even look to the left, they just pull right out in front. The archery, where they want to build the archery, it's really close to my backyard. I don't know exactly how far, but 50 yards, 100 yards. You have kids playing with bows and arrows. I'd be afraid of an arrow coming in my backyard. I have 2 little ones, and that's the last thing I need is an arrow coming through. And then concerns about some of the camping. You know, with the 6 cabins that they're building, you know, how much camping is going to go on back there. You know, there's a little bit that goes on right now. You know, you hear it a little bit like on Friday or Saturday night, but with having 6 buildings, shower areas, it just seems like a lot to have sitting there, you know, in a residential area. People going in and out during the night, and just a lot more traffic going through there. I think that's about it that I have right now.
All right, now, from your personal point of view,
What's that?
how often is this used? Is it used weekly or every other day or something, nightly or during the day?
They use it all the time. I mean, right now they have it closed, but they use it all the time.
All the time?
Yeah. I mean, right now it's closed. They closed it back in June, but all the time. I mean, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. There's cars that go up at 10, 11 o'clock at night. I think they have a cleaning crew that goes at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. You hear the trucks go up.
Okay, any questions? No. All right, okay, may I have a seat for the time being?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, there was others that wish to speak. Certainly need to have somebody from the Girl Scouts that will speak relative to the reason for these modifications and what the results are, and we'll go from there.
Hello, my name is Susan Douglas. I'm the CEO of the Kentucky's Wilderness Road Council. We have the parking and the drive and the speed is definitely some of our biggest concerns and things that we've spent a lot of time. It's the reason we're a couple years into the process before bringing anything to you. Some of the things we talked about the last time we were here with the neighbors was putting in the potential for speed bumps and stop signs and all of that to slow down that traffic, to change the angle, because we do know that that's been of a concern of the neighbors. The way we use the property is there's usually during the summer months we do run a day camp, and there's usually about 60 to 100 girls. Those cars are not there on the property all day. So parking for the events that actually has the most girls there. It's an issue right now because we only have about 18 parking spots, but doubling that would definitely give us enough accommodation. As for the noise of girls using the cabins, I won't say that girls can't be noisy. We did try to pick a part of the property where it's back the furthest away from especially the residential homes. It is in proximity to the apartment complexes. The other ways, and that's part of the reason we're trying to put in a program center too, is to have more areas, indoor areas where girls could be in addition to the outside areas, because right now the way the property is used is there is a covered shelter, and then there is an area off the administrative building that they use for programming, but it's very small. And what we really want to see is a place where, if we're running robotics programs, the girls can come and build robots. If we want to do even something like a movie night, they have a place to actually do that on the property. This property was donated to us in good faith that we would keep the property up, keep up with the girls and the needs of the girls and the programming as it changes. This is a unique opportunity for us. It's one of our 6 properties that we own. It's a unique opportunity in the fact that it could offer outdoor, unique experiences for girls within city limits. Most of our other outdoor adventure type properties are along 64. We have one close to Carter Caves, one close to Cave Run Lake, but they're all out in the wilderness. This gives us a different opportunity where we have great population, where we can serve a lot of girls in this northern Kentucky area off of that property and do currently. We're also hoping that with this new construction, we would be able to get the cookies out of a semi-truck and into a building, which should slow down the number of times a semi-truck has to access the property during the 3 months of the sale every year. I hope I've answered some of your programming questions, but I would love to answer more.
All right, we got several.
Okay.
Okay. Under last summer, when you had a girls' camp, how many girls did you max to accommodate, or how many did you accommodate?
We usually, if we do an overnight there, because they're using the program center, we can only have about 20 girls at any given time for an overnight. But for the day camp, depending on the week of day camp, it's anywhere from 60 to about 100, 110 girls.
So you're saying last summer you had during the day 110 girls there for camp?
Yeah, depending on the week.
Now, taking that figure, how many girls are you projecting if this facility is remodeled?
Due to the nature of day camp, I would expect that number to increase, but I would not expect it to double. The usage during times outside of the day camp usage, I would expect that to increase significantly. So during your spring and your fall months.
All right, how many full-time employees you got down there?
Right now,
You got 10. You started out in 85 with what, 9, 7, 8, 9? You got 10 now.
At that location.
That work year-round.
Yeah, yes.
Now, so you're saying that then with the increase, if you increase the girls' load, then you're either going to increase volunteers or more employees want. I guess my next question is, how many overnighters, on an average, what overnighters do you have?
Well, that is, all of those programs, even day camp, is run by our volunteer base. And so the overnights that we do are troops or service units. So counties will come together and use the facility for overnights. And so it could be as few as 10 girls. And in the current facilities, we can't really have more than 20 or 25 to be able to accommodate overnight.
So are you saying, for example, the cabins, are they going to be strictly for summer use, summer camp?
Right now in our other facilities, we use them from about the end of March through the 1st of October. So if weather permitting and permission of the city, then we would like to continue to use them. During the school year, though, they're only used on weekends. There would not be weeknight or weekday activities.
You mentioned that during the summer for day activities, that sometimes you have approximately 100 girls there. Would that equate to about 80 cars coming down Watson Road and turning in? Is that a good guess? Or?
We don't typically experience that quite that many cars because there's so many troops that come together. However, it could, and what this would resolve is that backup of traffic onto Watson Road, because it would be actually a structured, just like at a park or a school, a structured way in, drop-off point, and way off the property. So it should move a lot smoother instead of having them parked up the road or having a bottleneck at our property. And so that's one of the things we're trying to solve.
With the cabins, how many can you accommodate to stay overnight? So you're at 20 now around, so how many would that add?
Depending on the exact style of the cabins, we usually sleep 8 to 10 girls in any one cabin. And typically, just by the nature of what we do, typically multiple troops may and may not use the cabins at the same time. So for us to have a full house in the cabins would be highly unlikely. Mm-hmm. We just want to have the space available.
Mm-hmm. One of the concerns was the archery that you're going to have. Mm-hmm. Could you kind of let us know the safety of that and how you handle that? This gentleman mentioned that he was a little leery of kids running around with bows.
Absolutely, and I would be too, to know that you're going to have kids with bow and arrows pointed towards your house. I know that would be alarming. We do, however, at all of our other archery facilities, we do have a backdrop to catch the arrows so they don't get off the property. We can definitely look at that because safety is at the top of everything that we do. And so I would not want our neighbors to feel unsafe with the activities we're doing, nor would I want our girls to be unsafe with the activities that we're doing. So we can definitely look further into if that's the right place to put it, but we do have safety precautions in the way we build those structures.
One of the primary concerns is that we're kind of bouncing off numbers. Right now, you're saying that last summer, we could have as high as 100 people in summer camp in a given week, 4 a week at the site. Is that correct?
Yeah. And my guess is you may have about 40 cars with those 100 girls.
Well, but I'm talking about students, kids.
Yes.
And then you say then this is going to allow you to have more. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you had to have, or somebody has had to sit down and make a projection on what you all could accommodate, feed, not feed, have recreation for. What's that number?
That number we would like for it to be closer to 120 all the time and not the fluctuation of having 60 1 week on the property. We are not building facilities to house those girls overnight.
No, that's only a part of the question.
Okay.
All right, so you're saying that any given time now, with the new growth, considered growth or expansion, that the max would be around 120.
Yes. Well, I don't know that would.
If 200 showed up and wanted to go to camp that week, would you accommodate all 200?
Yes. For a day camp, absolutely.
So you have no limitation. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you understand what we're saying.
We're looking for a maximum capacity. Like, how many could you serve at once? Should all these girls sign up? How many could you sign up for a day at camp? 200, 300? But your projections are about 120.
But
right?
I would say between 120 and 150 would be what we would be planning on serving every day. One of the nice things about the facilities would be the programming we could offer for those girls. Right now, we're very limited due to the shape and the age of the buildings and the facilities that we have. We can't necessarily accommodate the type of programming that the girls want to see. And so what we would like to do is provide the facilities that will provide that programming and then adjust our numbers accordingly. So I do not know the maximum today off the top of my head, but I can definitely get those numbers for you.
Now, you projected to build 6 cabins.
Yes.
What's the capacity of each cabin?
The cabins that we typically have will sleep between 8 and 10.
8 and 10, each one supervised, and I'm assuming.
I'm sorry, can you repeat
Each
that?
one supervised. In other words, each cabin has a
Has an
supervisor.
adult.
But my point is, so then there would be anywhere from, now that's on the cabin site. Is there any other rooms available other than the cabin site?
In the program center, we would like to put kind of a bunkhouse within our program center, which is very similar to some of our other campsites, that there would be overnight accommodations off of where there's a meeting space and kitchen space and the indoor restroom facilities and all of that.
All right, now, take that thought, combine the two, and what are you telling me right now is approximately the maximum people that would be there overnight?
There could probably be about 70 people overnight between the
And
two.
how often do you have these overnights?
Currently, we don't have them very often because we don't have the facilities in order to accommodate them. Our greatest population within the 67 counties that we serve are here in northern Kentucky, and we know that that's a great need that we have, and we'd like to be able to provide those outdoor overnight opportunities to the girls we serve in this area.
Do you serve all 8 counties of northern Kentucky? Or what counties do you serve at your facility?
Grant, Pendleton, Kenton, Boone, Campbell. Did I say Grant? Help me out.
Owen, Carroll?
Owen, Pendleton.
Okay. Do you know how many are from Erlanger? How many girls? Just approximate, how many were properties in Erlanger? Just wondering how many Erlanger.
I can't tell you off the top of my head what Erlanger has, but within those counties of northern Kentucky, we serve about 2,600.
Do you have any other sites besides this one?
And not in northern Kentucky. This is the only one in northern Kentucky. We do have 4 other camp properties, and then we have an office building in Lexington, Kentucky. And then we rent throughout the other spaces of the state.
All those cookies sold that are sold in northern Kentucky go through that administration building over there going to 7 counties?
No, we actually have cupboards that are oftentimes run by volunteers, oftentimes out of their own homes, throughout the different communities wherever we can find volunteers, but we do have a significant number of cookies that move out of the administrative site here.
I think this is a major, major change for that area. And considering the fact that you were allowed to go in there in '85 as a Girl Scout group through the old Cooley property. And at this stage today, to double it approximately is a major undertaking for the area. And, you know, I just want you to realize that we're trying to look at everything possible for what's, you know, for the neighborhood, you all and all concerned, and trying to get answers to these questions. At least that's my concern. And let me ask you this much. How often, if there's 52 weeks in a year, how often is that active? Is it active 50 out of 52? Is it active 40 weeks a year or what?
I would say probably about 40, 45 weeks of the year it'll be active. Usually around the holidays, it's not very active, but then you have cookie seasons coming up at the end of January.
With the exception of an overnighter, do you have a cut down time when you say lights out? Go home time? Do you cut down at 11 o'clock? Do you stay till midnight or whenever you get ready or what?
Except for overnights, our offices close at 5 o'clock except on Tuesdays, and they close at 7 o'clock. During cookie season, we are open on Saturdays, and then because there is a program facility here, volunteers may use the property with our permission on the weekends. But usually by 7 p.m., even if they're going to have an after-work meeting, it's closed up.
But because of the location in the neighborhood, in a residential neighborhood, do you try to restrict your hours so that there can be times for the neighborhood to be able to get some rest also?
Absolutely. And we also try to do that looking out for our volunteers and our staff as well. Our workday is 8:30 to 5 o'clock, and we try to stay within that as much as we can, except when you're working with volunteers and parents. We also have to be accommodating to their schedules as well.
All right, give me a time on that in the evening.
If we have, take for example, a service unit meeting that might meet there, and that would be one of our counties. If those volunteers were to meet, they probably would start their meeting at 6 o'clock. After the workday is over, it'll be done 7:30, 8 o'clock. But those happen no more than once a month.
I know a lot of this depends on your capital campaign, but what's your timeline look like to have it, if you're getting all the donations that you need and able to raise the funds? Then what does implementation of this plan look like, and what's the time frame?
I would like to say that I have that nailed down. I do not, but I would expect for 18, 24 months for us to have a pretty good start on the project. And until we get a little bit further into the capital campaign, we won't know whether we can do it all at once, or if we'll have to phase that in.
So this isn't going to be in phases once, you know, if this gets approved, once it gets started, the entirety of it's going to be done?
That is absolutely our goal, is that once we get the approval to go ahead, we'll be able to do the entire project. Other questions?
Anybody else that wishes to speak for or against?
Good.
Sounds well.
Yes, sir. You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Greg Pullman, 596 Watson Road. I live directly across from the property. I don't want to mirror exactly what Mr. Wisman had stated regarding the traffic issues, but I am currently an Erlanger police officer, and I do have a marked police car at the end of the road. My concerns, as well as, you know, everyone here, for traffic, obviously, is even with a marked police car, there's very little that's been done to slow some of the people down, and we're only talking about a third of the traffic. But it's, it can be very aggressive at times, and of course with the children out there, you know, we never let them run into the road. But at the same time, you know, I know the Girl Scouts, at least I hope they're reaching out to the city to try to, you know, come up with a plan, some sort of speed humps. I understand that that's an issue when it comes to snow removal. But at the same time, these are concerns that the entire residency of the street has the same concerns over this. And as you mentioned, we were actually given signs by the Girl Scouts to post in our front yards. It slowed a few people down. There's still a great deal of traffic that does go up and down. The summer camps, we try to work around those as residents. But at the same time, it is disconcerting to see people pull into your driveway and actually, you know, do some damage, not much. But we try to work within those. The traffic, again, is just our concern at this point. Okay, thank you.
So regarding the comment about maybe taking the driveway and making it come in more at a 90 or trying to do some type of a tail there at the end, that's certainly something that we can do and draft in and kind of work on rearranging that. So my understanding is that kind of that oblique angle, people are kind of maybe shooting out of there. So that's a kind of end of the driveway thing. I mean, we'd still put a nice radius on it, but we might be able to cue that up a little bit better to use that as kind of a traffic calming technique, at least to make people pause to turn in and pause to turn out. From an engineering standpoint, that's doable.
All right.
That's all I wanted to add.
Wait just a second. We're talking 130, 140 students, kids, summer camp. Exact number she just gave us. Drop off, pick up, widening that driveway, progressive driving up, picking them up at the administration building, going back without leaving the car per se, and making a bottleneck coming back down on Watson Road. Can that be accommodated to avoid any parking on Watson whatsoever? I mean, I know you can't tell somebody they can't park on Watson, but I'm saying, You know,
No,
the
I mean-
purpose of drop-off and pickup at the upper point, can that be taken care of?
Yes, sir, that can be taken care of. I mean, the object here is basically to have the cars go all the way up to the building, drop off, leave, so that there's no parking on the street. And then we've also got the additional parking well above, you know, the spaces that are there now to try to deal with that aspect as well. So it should significantly help that issue.
Second question. Primary concern of this gentleman over here, your archery area.
Yes.
Your archery area is back over in your residential area.
Yes. Mark, can we go back to that slide? I just wanted to kind of get a exact understanding of the first slide that has the aerial and the different properties. Just wanted to take a look. And it also kind of...
It and the amphitheater over there together, correct?
Right.
This is the gentleman's house, right here.
Are you the first one? So the archery is proposed, yeah, right in there. So there's a substantial stream riparian, what I call an RPZ. So it's basically just a heavily vegetated stream zone in between the two. Also, you know, as Susan mentioned, the archery facility itself can be designed, you know, with a substantial backstop, but then we also have all the vegetation in the stream zone. It's well over a couple hundred feet. I was just looking at the map and kind of scaling that off because he was thinking maybe it was 150, but it's well over a couple hundred, about 250 feet it looks like to me. Those would be my comments as to how I don't think that would be a real substantial risk and something that we could treat.
Brings up a question. Now, the gentleman's concerned about his backyard and the archery, and then we've addressed that 2 or 3 times. Going around the right of the lake and down there, and as you go back up toward the cabins, toward the expressway area, vacant property there, away from everything. Is there any reason that archery couldn't have been located down there?
Could you point to the spot that you're talking about?
He's talking about the volleyball court here.
Is that the site you're talking about?
Here's the end of Watson, and here's 75.
I'm talking about going down toward 75. Go down to 75.
Back towards the south. Let's go back to the aerial and play around. I mean, I think the idea behind the location where it is now is that, one, we think it is safe because it has that heavily vegetated wooded area that's pointed down there. Plus, we have you know, storage facility and that would be able to put all the bows and arrows and equipment. You know, we have equipment storage up there, so it kind of fits into the programming and in the vicinity of the actual buildings as well.
Well, basically what we're trying to look at somewhere where we can get a peaceful coexistence, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So down around the corner, going back toward the cabins, what I mentioned earlier, down toward the expressway, no development in that area. On the other side of the pond, you know, down toward the, as you come around up there, there's just, you know.
You know, I say something about this.
Pardon?
My son's an archery instructor. Those kids that get in these programs, one, they're shooting bows that don't have the capabilities to travel that far.
Right.
The other thing is they use a backdrop for them. So if one of those kids actually turns and points, they're done. I mean, they've got such strict regulations that they'll take them out of a program or out of shooting.
Right. I guess I haven't seen a Girl Scouts bow, but I'm not picturing this, you know, 70-pound pull compound bow that's going to be able to launch it, you know, across the property. I think you know, the girls can pull back, and you know, it's that type of thing.
They're all about 18-pound pull or
yeah.
something like that, so they don't have much distance. Period.
Right.
What's the average age of a Girl Scout?
The average age, the majority of our membership is kindergarten through 5th grade. We
Okay.
go K through 12.
Oh, thank you.
Any other question? Okay. We close the discussion then as far as the audience. Yes, sir.
Some of the things that I've seen, like on the summer camps that they have going on, and what I've, with the cars going back and, counting the kids when I've seen them, but it seems like there's only like 25, 30 kids on one day, not 100 kids on one day. Maybe for the whole week, there might be 100 kids coming. It could be different kids every single day. But as one day, 25 to maybe 30 kids coming. And you're taking 30 kids, you're going to quadruple it to 120, what they're talking about right now. So, I mean, there's a lot of traffic going on there with the 25 to 30 kids with the drop-off. It is also a business, and the one thing that I heard, some rumblings on, but could they ever rent out these cabins for other than Girl Scouts? And then, like once a month during the summer, they might have a sleepover, but you'll hear them out there 11:30, 12 o'clock at night singing songs and campfires and all that stuff. So, once a month, you kind of live with some of that, but when you have it, it could be during the summertime, almost every night. They're not building all these just to sit empty. They're building them to have people in there. So is it something that's going to be every night? It doesn't matter if it's one camp group or 6 camp groups or 6 plus whatever's in the house. There's going to be a lot of people there. Then how late are you going to have everybody out? But they do, if they all leave like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and there's another troop that's using it, who's telling them they have to go to bed at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night?
Anybody else in the audience? All right, we will close the audience discussion. Any discussion among yourselves? Before motion's in order, my personal feeling is that we do or should be able or should have the right to restrict the amount of people there and not rubber stamp anywhere from 100 to 300 people to be there. The accommodations to feed, what have you, shelter, has to be limited according to the size of the facility and what they plan to do with it. So just to say we got 200 this week and 300 next week, I don't think is, to me personally, is not solid. I think that the hours ought to be restricted more from the standpoint of the neighborhood, that any normal business in the evenings should be done within 9 or 10 o'clock at night and shut down, with exception if it's an overnighter and they're there and they're in there and they're closed up, things are going on. In other words, it's closed up, then they're not going to be running back and forth anyway. I think that all drop-offs and pickups should be done at the administration building, and that would eliminate the traffic and the people on Watson Road that they've been dealing with since 1985. And that was created by the Girl Scouts. That was not created by them, by setting up at the road and letting them drop the kids off and welcome and so on. So that was part of it. So that's just my thoughts, okay? Anybody else have any comments? If not, a motion's in order.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Do we want to do 1 or 2?
Hold on just a minute. Let me correct one thing and then back up a little bit. We did not address the sign issue that we said was the third issue. There was 2 issues with that. One was a sign at Watson going into the property, and the other was a sign on the building that people going up the expressway could look up and say, there's where the Girl Scouts are at. It would actually be, could be seen from the expressway. Those are governed by ordinances that says they can only be so sized based on the square footage of the building. Correct, Mr. Stewart?
Yes, sir.
So in other words, we're not going to, debate whether that sign should be this size or that size or what color. That sign, that would have to be submitted to Mr. Stewart through the city to be approved, or signage anyway. Okay? That takes care of that. Now,
Okay.
the rest of this, as far as the motion, we can put any kind of conditions on any part of it, or we can read it and specify it according to how, in other words, how you want it, okay?
Okay, the motion to grant the application of Ms. Susan Douglas to develop the property as shown on the submitted plan dated December 21st, 2018, within 2 years of the date of the board's decision. The granting of this variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. The motion shall be pursuant to the factual determinations from the evidence provided, including without limitation the staff report, which is hereby determined to be accurate.
Or you going down and put any limitations in there?
I was going to say.
You know, in terms of the numbers. She can't hear, make sure you put that in there. Ma'am, you might want to move up to where if she rereads this, you can hear it.
I'll try to be a little bit louder. To grant the application of Ms. Susan Douglas to develop the property as shown on the submitted plan dated December 21st, 2018, within 2 years of the date of the board's decision. The granting of this variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. The motion shall be pursuant to the factual determinations for the evidence provided, including without limitation the staff report, which is hereby determined to be accurate. And I would like to add that we should put in a maximum capacity.
The maximum capacity should be day camp. What? Give me a figure.
I would think 140, which you mentioned.
And overnight.
We're going to say 70. That's what it can hold. To round those numbers, we could do 150 during the day and 100 at night. That'll allow for projected growth, but not to, completely overrun the neighborhood altogether.
Yeah, sorry, but we just discussed for a minute.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Could you read them for example?
150 for during the day and 100 for overnights.
Is that an outside only, or is that like just, that's like the capacity for the property?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're talking about 11 acres, right? So that's the capacity for the whole
Right.
site.
We asked several times what the projected, how many they thought they could have. I mean, are we looking for 200? That's what we're looking to do in the next 5 years. I mean, surely you have strategic planning. And we want to be fair. We want to coexist with the residences to allow for that growth, but also to be reasonable. Are there other numbers that you think should be considered?
No, it's your motion. Your motion. Okay, motion been made. Maximum capacity during the day, 150. Maximum overnight capacity, 100. And you have told us, and I'm sure that it's a part of the motion, that all activity, unless otherwise, would cease to exist after 10 o'clock at night, as far as being in the neighborhood, residential neighborhood, with exception of the overnight people that are staying there. Okay, those motions have been added. With that being added, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Mr. Stewart, roll call vote.
Mr. Molly,
Yes.
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes?
Mr. Newsom.
Yes. Thank you all for coming. Mr. Stewart, do we have anything up and coming for, us? Anything next month?
I have nothing as of yet.
Any kind of new development going on in Erlanger we need to be aware of?
Potential some more work being done on Kenton lands near the library, so. In discussions with some people, so.
Right, now, okay. And then, I guess that's it. With that being stated, then a motion in order to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
All right, second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.